So does that bring us on to tread depth?
Yes, it does. So if we go back over to the old tyres on the bench here, then we can go through the criteria.
Now, Brian, I know that car tyres are required to have a minimum tread depth of 1.6 millimetres. Is that the same for bike tyres?
No, it's not. It's different for bikes. But before we start looking at assessing the tread, we need to know a few important aspects about it.
So tell us about those.
Well, we need to know what we actually mean by tread pattern and what we actually mean by the breadth of tread.
I would have thought that the tread pattern is pretty obvious.
No, it's not as obvious as you think. The manual states that the tread does not include any tie bars, tread wear indicators, features that are designed to wear out substantially before the remainder of the pattern, or any other minor features.
So grooves that hadn't been cut as deep as those containing the wear indicators when new aren't considered to be part of the tread pattern?
Yeah, that's dead right. And we have to take into account when assessing tread that we must take in the original tread pattern.
So what's the definition of breadth of tread?
Well, the manual tells us that the tread's made up of a combination of plain surfaces and grooves across the tyre. When it talks about breadth of tread, this is a part of the tread that can touch the road under normal driving conditions, including cornering, so that would be the full width of the tyre.
So now we understand about the breadth of tread and the tread pattern. What is the minimum depth of tread for a bike tyre?
Well, there's two criteria to consider. Those bikes that are not greater than 50cc, and the second one for everything else.
So what's the minimum depth of tread for bikes over 50cc?
Right, it needs to have 1 millimetre of tread around a single circumferential band around a tyre across 3/4 of the tread breadth. Now that can be across any 3/4 of the tread, and there's some good diagrams in the inspection manual to illustrate that.
And what about the tread area outside the 3/4 band?
The tread outside of the 3/4 band needs to have visible tread on it. It doesn't have to be as deep as 1 mil, but it needs to have visible tread.
So any bald patches would result in a fail?
Yeah, so that's getting on at my haircut again. All right, yeah. No, seriously, mate. Yeah, if there's not visible tread over the whole tread area, then that would be a reason for ejection.
And what about the smaller bikes?
Right, if the engine capacity is not greater than 50cc, the tread depth can be less than 1 mil. It must have visible tread around the entire circumference across the whole width of the tyre.
Well, that's simple enough. Any bald patches and it fails. So that's bike tyres. What about the tyres on other vehicles?
Well, you might be surprised to know, Rob, that there's a lot of other vehicles that only require that 1 millimetre tread depth requirement.
What are they?
Yeah, any vehicle first used before the 3rd of January 1933, any passenger carrying vehicle with more than 8 passenger seats, excluding the driver, and any trike with an unladen weight not exceeding 410 kilograms.
So that would include all Class 5s?
It most certainly does, yeah.
So let's clarify the reasons for rejection then. A tyre will fail if there isn't visible tread over the whole tread area, or if the depth of tread wasn't at least 1 millimetre throughout a single band around the complete circumference of the tyre that's at least 3/4 the breadth of the tread.
Yeah, spot on that, mate. But we have to be aware that there are tyres out there where the grooves of the original tread pattern did not extend beyond 3/4 of the tread breadth.
So what are the rules that apply to those?
Well, the manual tells us that any groove that showed in the original tread pattern must meet the 1 millimetre tread depth requirement.
Now, presumably tyres on all other vehicles are required to have a minimum 1.6 millimetre tread depth.
Yeah, dead right, mate. And these would be vehicles first used after the 2nd of January 1933 that are either passenger carrying vehicles with not more than 8 passenger seats, excluding the driver, and any goods vehicle or dual purpose vehicle that's not exceeding 3,500 kilograms design gross weight.
And does the 3/4 width rule still apply?
Yes, it does, but for these vehicles it's slightly different. They must have 1.6 millimetre of tread around the entire circumference of the tyre across a 3/4 band, but this 3/4 band must be the central 3/4 of the tyre.
And does the rest of the tread still have to be visible?
No, not with a 1.6 mil rule. It can be bald on the 2 edges, theoretically, providing you've got this 1.6 millimetre of tread across the central 3/4 of the tyre. And you can see this one, it's clearly above 1.6 mil across the centre, but it's run off on the edge there, so that would be a pass and advise.
And to establish the 3/4 of the tread breadth, would the tester use a tape measure?
Yes, he could do, but there are things commercially available, and there's a small gauge here. They're not mandatory, but testers can use them, and it's quite a simple device. You'd put it onto the tyre, pick up the centre of your tread, and then this will give you, you pick up your width for your tread from the outside, and you come to the inside of the line, that's your central 3/4. So they can use that if they wish.
And all the other criteria concerning the definition of breadth of tread and the tread pattern remain the same?
Yeah, that's exactly right.